Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Robert Curtis. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Please sit if you can do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Trooper George David Burns. George Burns was born on the 2nd of January 1916, the son of Robert and Jane Burns of Wondai, Queensland. His father worked as a farmer in the district until poor health caused him to lose everything. But he recovered, and by the time George was a small boy, his father was a representative on the Wondai Council. George grew up in Wondai and was educated locally, going on to work as a farm labourer in the district. George Burns enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force soon after the outbreak of war in 1939. He left Australia for active service overseas in January 1940. Arriving in Egypt, Burns was quickly sent on to Palestine, where his regiment, the 2nd Australian Division Cavalry Regiment, began training with tanks. At the end of 1940, Burns's regiment moved into the Western Desert, where he joined British forces in preparation for a major offensive. 2 days after the offensive began, in early December, the 6th Division Cavalry Regiment went into action against Italian forces at Garn El Grain and Fort Madalena, becoming the first Australian Army unit to go into action during the Second World War. On Boxing Day, George Burns sat down to write a letter to his parents. Days later, his unit was called on to help capture Bardia, a small coastal town just inside the Libyan border. Under a heavy artillery barrage, the tanks pushed forward into the Italian stronghold, which was captured in 2 days. The Battle of Bardia cost 130 Australian lives, with another 326 wounded. One of those killed was Trooper George David Burns, killed in action on the first day of the battle, the 3rd of January 1941. His manner of death is unknown, although there are suggestions it was the result of Italian artillery fire. Shortly after receiving the telegram to notify them of their son's death, Robert and Jane Burns received his last letter in the mail, written from the front line on Boxing Day 1940. George Burns was buried near where he fell and was later reinterred at the Knightsbridge War Cemetery at Akrama, near the Libyan coast, where his remains lie under the epitaph written by his grieving parents. Our son, that your sacrifice may not be in vain. He was 25 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Trooper George David Burns, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening.